Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract wealth while others struggle their entire lives? What if I told you that the difference between financial struggle and abundance could be just one phrase away? A single powerful declaration that, when spoken with absolute conviction, could transform your financial reality overnight? Today, I'm about to share something that most will never discover. A secret so profound, yet so simple, that it's been hiding in plain sight for centuries. This isn't about complex investment strategies or grinding away at multiple side hustles. It's about accessing the true source of wealth that has been within you all along. Has this ever happened to you? You work harder, put in more hours, follow all the conventional financial advice, yet somehow money continues to feel elusive. You watch others prosper while you wonder what secret ingredient you're missing. There's a reason for this, and it's not what most financial gurus are telling you. The truth is, we've been conditioned to believe that wealth is something external, that it comes from luck, chance, inheritance, or back-breaking work. This fundamental misunderstanding is the very illusion keeping abundance at arm's length from you right now. What if I told you that the most powerful minds throughout history discovered that wealth doesn't come to you? It comes through you. Florence Scovel Shinn, one of the greatest spiritual teachers of the 20th century, revealed this transformative truth decades ago, yet its profound simplicity means most people overlook it. She taught that your imagination, not your circumstances, creates your financial reality. Every dollar in your bank account right now is there because of a thought you accepted as true about yourself. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you think about money forever. I'm going to reveal a single phrase, just one declaration, that when spoken with unwavering faith, opens channels of prosperity you never thought possible. This isn't positive thinking or wishful visualization. This is about fundamentally shifting your identity at the deepest level, where all creation begins. When you make this shift, the outside world has no choice but to reorganize itself around your new self-concept. Money will begin to find you through channels you could never plan or predict. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. What makes this approach different from everything you've tried before is that it doesn't require endless repetition or exhausting effort. The universe doesn't respond to desperation or pleading. It responds to certainty, to knowing. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to access that state of certainty where wealth becomes not just possible, but inevitable. If you found value in today's message about wealth consciousness, hit that subscribe button to join our community of conscious creators. Imagine for a moment that your words are not simply sounds you make to communicate. Every single word you speak is actually a powerful energy frequency that shapes the very fabric of your reality. This isn't mystical thinking. It's the hidden truth about how consciousness operates. The words you use daily aren't just describing your life, they're actively creating it. The phrase I'm about to reveal to you works because it taps into what Florence Scovel Shinn discovered decades ago. Consciousness is the only real substance from which your entire life is formed. When you declare something with absolute certainty, you're not just making noise, you're sending ripples through the field of infinite possibility, instructing it on what to manifest in your physical experience. Think about it. Have you noticed how people who constantly talk about being sick tend to remain unwell? Or how those who repeatedly discuss their financial struggles seem to attract more bills and expenses? This isn't coincidence or bad luck. It's the language of consciousness at work, faithfully delivering more of whatever state you consistently occupy. The most profound transformation in your financial journey occurs not when your circumstances change, but when your self-concept shifts. When you speak the wealth-activating phrase I'll share with you, something remarkable happens beneath the surface. You're not merely repeating pretty words, you're stepping into an entirely new identity. This identity shift is where the real power lies. It's not the phrase itself that creates wealth, but rather who you become when you speak it with unwavering conviction. Your mind, body, and energy field reorganize around this new declaration. You begin to think different thoughts, notice different opportunities, and take different actions, not through force of will, but through a natural alignment with your newly claimed identity. Consider how differently a person who identifies as wealthy moves through the world compared to someone who identifies as struggling. The wealthy person makes decisions from abundance, expects good outcomes, and feels deserving of prosperity. Their mindset shapes every interaction they have with money. The struggling person, meanwhile, operates from scarcity, expects disappointment, and often feels unworthy of financial blessings. The revolutionary insight here is that you can consciously choose which identity you embody. You're not stuck with the financial self-concept you've carried until now. Through the deliberate use of this precise language pattern, you can initiate an identity-level shift that ripples outward into every aspect of your financial reality. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic and reveal what happens in those critical moments after you speak this phrase. How the silent transformation begins to unfold in ways that might surprise you. If this concept of identity-level transformation resonates with something you've experienced in your own life, write identity shift in the comments below. What happens in the moments after you speak this wealth-activating phrase is nothing short of miraculous, yet it unfolds in perfect silence. After the declaration leaves your lips, there's a profound stillness that descends upon you. Not emptiness, but rather a rich, pregnant silence filled with infinite possibility. This is where the real journey begins. In this sacred space of silent knowing, you'll notice something curious starting to happen. You're no longer chasing money or opportunities. Instead, they begin rising toward you like waves on an ocean shore. This isn't wishful thinking. It's the natural revelation of how universal laws operate. The difference is subtle but profound. Before, you were pursuing wealth. Now, wealth is pursuing you. Many people miss this critical phase because they're looking for immediate, dramatic results. The truth is that the universe rarely works in thunderclaps and lightning strikes. Instead, it operates through synchronicities, through doors that suddenly open where walls once stood, through unexpected phone calls, through ideas that arrive in the shower when your mind is quiet. The transformation isn't loud. It's a whispered invitation to step into your rightful abundance. People often ask me, but how do I know it's working? The answer is elegantly simple. You'll feel different before you see different. There's a calm certainty that washes over you, a sense that the path has already been cleared. You'll catch yourself thinking thoughts that the old you would never have entertained. Of course I can afford this. Money comes to me easily. These aren't affirmations you're forcing. They're authentic reflections of your new alignment. What's happening behind the scenes is that you're no longer at odds with the fundamental truth of abundance. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that most people unwittingly resist wealth because they haven't aligned their imagination with what's already true about the nature of prosperity. The universe isn't withholding money from you. It's waiting for you to remove your own internal barriers to receiving it. Think of it as tuning a radio to the correct frequency. The music was always playing, but you couldn't hear it because you were tuned to a different station. This wealth frequency isn't something you create. It already exists. Your declaration simply dials you into perfect resonance with it, allowing you to receive what was always there for you. This alignment with truth is why some people seem to attract money effortlessly while others struggle despite working twice as hard. It's never about luck or coincidence. It's about whether your internal state, your beliefs, expectations, and sense of identity are congruent with the prosperity you seek to experience. Let me now share with you the profound impact this inner alignment has on your day-to-day interactions with the material world, and why this approach differs so dramatically from conventional financial wisdom. If you've ever experienced moments where opportunities seem to find you without struggle, type effortless flow in the comments below. One of the most revolutionary aspects of this approach to wealth manifestation is that, unlike conventional methods, it requires only a single declaration. This runs counter to everything you've likely been taught about affirmations or visualization techniques that emphasize endless repetition. The reason most people fail with traditional methods is precisely because they're caught in a loop of repetition that actually reinforces doubt rather than certainty. Think about it this way. If you truly believed you were already wealthy, would you need to remind yourself hundreds of times daily? Of course not. The very act of constant repetition betrays an underlying disbelief. It's like planting a seed and then digging it up every few hours to check if it's growing. This continual disruption prevents the natural process of manifestation from unfolding. When you speak this wealth-activating phrase with absolute conviction just once, something profound happens at the quantum level of reality creation. You're making a decisive, energetic declaration to the universe. Then, instead of undermining it with doubt, disguised as repetition, you simply live from that new paradigm. The seed is planted. Your job now is to water it with expectation and protect it with unwavering faith. Florence Scovel Shinn understood this profound truth about the architecture of reality. She taught that our words aren't just descriptive. They're creative in the most literal sense. Every word you speak is a seed planted in the fertile soil of universal consciousness. Most words are like seeds scattered on rocky ground. They never take root. But certain declarations, spoken with feeling and conviction, sink deep into the subconscious mind where all creation begins. Ready to continue this journey of transformation? Subscribe now and discover more powerful insights that can change your financial reality forever. These potent word seeds begin to germinate in the dark soil of your unconscious, sending roots downward and shoots upward, eventually breaking through into your visible reality as circumstances, opportunities, and tangible wealth. This isn't metaphorical. It's the literal mechanism by which your spoken word becomes your lived experience. The most successful people in history understood this hidden principle. They carefully guarded what they allowed themselves to say, knowing that their words were actively sculpting their future. This goes far beyond positive thinking. It's about recognizing the causal relationship between your declarations and your destiny. The script you speak becomes the script you live. This revelation transforms your relationship with language itself. Suddenly, casual complaints about money become unthinkable once you understand they're actually instructions to the universe. Statements like, "I can't afford that," or "money is always tight," are actually powerful creative directives that your subconscious mind faithfully executes. Now that you understand the one-time declaration principle and the generative power of your words, let me reveal the astonishing connection between your inner conversations and the financial reality that surrounds you daily. If you're ready to speak with new awareness about your financial future, type "Conscious Creator" in the comments below. What makes the wealth-activating phrase so remarkably potent isn't the arrangement of letters or the sound vibrations it creates in the air. The real power lies in the invisible energy field of belief that surrounds and infuses your words. When Florence Scovel Shinn revealed that every word is imagination made visible, she was sharing a profound truth about the architecture of reality itself. Your words are simply the physical vessels that carry your beliefs into the material world. Think of them as containers. What fills those containers is what matters most. When you speak from a place of absolute certainty, your words become charged with creative energy. They become living things, ambassadors of your consciousness sent forth to reshape the external world according to your internal state. This understanding illuminates one of the most devastating hidden patterns, keeping millions trapped in financial struggle. Every day, without realizing it, people make unconscious declarations of poverty that program their reality. These seemingly innocent phrases might sound familiar. "I'll never get out of debt. I can't afford that. Money always slips through my fingers. The rich get richer while the rest of us struggle." These aren't merely observations or comments. They're powerful directives to your subconscious mind and to the intelligent universe around you. Each time you make one of these statements, you're essentially saying, "This is who I am. This is what I believe. This is what I expect." And the universe, which operates as a perfect mirror, reflects these declarations back as your lived experience. The Chai-Si. Revelation here is that most people's financial difficulties aren't caused primarily by external economic conditions, but by their own unconscious self-sabotage. Your financial blueprint, the invisible template that determines how much wealth you allow yourself to receive, is being written continuously through your everyday language patterns. This awareness represents a profound paradigm shift in how you approach your financial journey. Rather than focusing exclusively on external strategies, like investments or income streams, though these certainly have their place, true transformation begins with becoming conscious of the wealth-repelling declarations you might be making dozens of times daily. The good news is that once you recognize these patterns, you can make a decisive choice to eliminate them from your vocabulary. This isn't about denying reality or pretending problems don't exist. It's about refusing to crystallize temporary conditions into permanent identity statements. Instead of saying, "I can't afford this," you might say, "I'm choosing to direct my money elsewhere right now." Instead of, "I'll never get ahead," you might say, "I'm in the process of creating financial freedom." This linguistic revolution in your daily life creates the fertile soil where the one-time wealth declaration can take root and flourish. Let me now share how your identity is fundamentally shaped by the words you choose, and how this directly impacts the amount of wealth you're able to receive and maintain. If you've caught yourself making these unconscious poverty declarations in the past, type "breaking the pattern" in the comments below. One of the most profound revelations on this journey is understanding that your words aren't just descriptions. They're actually garments of identity that you wrap around yourself. When you say, "I am broke," you're not merely commenting on your current bank balance. You're literally clothing yourself in the energy frequency of lack. That phrase becomes a garment you wear everywhere you go, invisible to the naked eye, but radiantly apparent to the intelligent universe that responds not to your wishes, but to your identity. This spiritual principle operates with mathematical precision. Whatever follows the words "I am" becomes your energetic attire, the costume you wear on the stage of life. And just as you wouldn't wear a swimsuit to a business meeting or formal attire to the beach, certain identity garments are completely incongruent with the experience of wealth. The universe simply mirrors back to you the identity you've clothed yourself in. What most people fail to realize is that they're dressing for financial poverty every single day through careless "I am" statements. "I'm terrible with money. I'm always the last to get paid. I'm not good with numbers." Each of these declarations is like putting on a garment that repels prosperity. The wealth you seek cannot recognize you because you're wearing the wrong identity uniform. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered this transformative truth after working with thousands of students. She observed that when people changed nothing but their identity statements, the "I am" declarations they made daily, their external circumstances inevitably transformed to match their new self-concept. It wasn't magic or mysticism. It was the precise application of universal law. This brings us to the revolutionary power of the wealth-activating phrase I'm about to reveal. What makes it so extraordinary is that it's not just a collection of words. It's literally a doorway into a new identity. When you step through this doorway by speaking the phrase with absolute conviction, you cannot return to your former self. The declaration creates an energetic boundary line in your consciousness, a before and after moment that fundamentally alters your relationship with prosperity. Once spoken with full faith, this phrase cannot be withdrawn from the field of infinite possibility. It begins working immediately, rearranging your energy field, shifting your perception, and sending ripples through the quantum fabric of reality itself. This is why speaking it once with absolute conviction is infinitely more powerful than repeating lesser affirmations thousands of times with doubt. The moment you speak this declaration, you're making a decisive choice about who you are at the most fundamental level. You're stepping out of the identity garments of lack and limitation and clothing yourself in the vibrant attire of abundance. And this identity-level transformation changes everything: how you think, how you feel, how you make decisions, and most importantly, how the world responds to you. This awakening to the creative power of your identity statements represents a pivotal turning point in your prosperity journey. Let me now reveal why most wealth-seeking efforts fail, and how this identity-based approach eliminates the need for struggle entirely. If you've experienced moments where changing how you see yourself changed everything around you, type identity shift in the comments below. The most revolutionary understanding you can embrace on your wealth journey is that your words are not passive descriptions of reality. They are active, creative forces that literally construct your experience from the ground up. Most people assume that words simply describe what already exists, but Florence Scovel Shinn discovered something far more profound. Your words are actually creating what will exist. Every declaration you make is like a seed being cast into the fertile soil of universal consciousness. These word seeds contain within them the blueprint of what will eventually manifest in your visible reality. Just as an acorn contains the intricate design for an entire oak tree, your words carry the complete pattern for experiences, circumstances, and conditions that will inevitably emerge in your life. This explains why some people remain trapped in cycles of financial struggle despite their best efforts. They're continuously planting the wrong seeds through their daily language patterns. Each complaint, each expression of doubt, each statement of impossibility is a seed that must, by universal law, grow into its corresponding physical equivalent. The harvest you're experiencing today is the direct result of the verbal seeds you planted yesterday. When you truly grasp this principle, it transforms how you approach every conversation, every thought, and every declaration. Your words are no longer casual or meaningless. They're precisely calibrated instruments of reality creation. This awareness brings both power and responsibility, as you recognize that you've been unconsciously creating your financial circumstances all along. Now, here's where most people encounter resistance on this journey. When you first begin to speak words that feel larger than your current reality, when you dare to declare prosperity, despite visible evidence of lack, something uncomfortable happens. Fear rises. Doubt creeps in. The mind rebels against what it perceives as contradiction. This internal resistance is actually a positive sign. It means you're challenging the old identity and pushing against the boundaries of your comfort zone. This moment of tension is where most people retreat back to their familiar limitations. But those who persist through this phase of discomfort discover something miraculous. When you steadfastly maintain your new declaration despite contrary evidence, the world around you begins to bend and reshape itself to accommodate your new identity. This isn't mystical thinking. It's how reality has always worked. The physical world is more malleable than you've been led to believe, and it responds directly to your persistent inner state. The key word here is persistence. You must hold your new declaration with unwavering conviction, especially when external circumstances haven't yet caught up with your internal shift. This gap between your inner knowing and outer manifestation is the testing ground where your new identity is strengthened. Each time you choose your declaration over the temporary evidence before your eyes, you accelerate the manifestation process. Let me now reveal the profound connection between your imagination and this creative process, and how Florence Scovel Shinn's revolutionary discovery about consciousness can transform your financial reality overnight. If you've ever persisted in believing something possible despite all evidence to the contrary, and then watched it manifest, type persistent faith in the comments below. When you truly grasp the magnitude of what we're discussing, you begin to see your words in an entirely new light. Your speech is not merely a tool for communicating with others. It's the primary instrument through which you bring your reality into being. Every word you utter is quite literally a brushstroke on the canvas of your existence. You are painting your life into reality with each phrase, each statement, each declaration that passes your lips. This revelation transforms ordinary conversations into sacred acts of creation. That casual complaint about bills? It's a dark brushstroke on your financial canvas. That offhand remark about money being scarce? Another shadow cast across your prosperity landscape. But the opposite is equally true. When you declare abundance with certainty, you're painting vibrant, luminous strokes of possibility that must, by universal law, materialize in your physical experience. Florence Scovel. Shinn recognized this profound truth after observing thousands of transformations in her students' lives. She witnessed how those who spoke with authority and conviction about their desired reality, even when current circumstances contradicted their words, inevitably experienced breakthroughs that seemed miraculous to outside observers. What appeared to be magic was actually the precise application of spiritual law. This brings us to the extraordinary power of the wealth-activating phrase I'm about to reveal. Unlike conventional manifestation techniques that emphasize endless repetition, this approach requires just one decisive declaration. Why? Because the universe responds not to repetition, but to the depth of your conviction. When you speak this phrase once with absolute certainty, you create an instantaneous alignment between your consciousness and the frequency of wealth. Think about the difference between a timid request and a powerful command. When you repeat affirmations again and again, you're essentially begging the universe, revealing your underlying doubt. But when you make a single declaration from a place of unshakable knowing, you're commanding reality to conform to your vision. The power lies not in how many times you say it, but in the consciousness from which you speak it. This one-time alignment creates a quantum shift in your energy field. Instead of trying to convince yourself of something you doubt, you're simply acknowledging what you already know to be true at the deepest level. This is why the phrase works so profoundly. It's not creating something new. It's revealing what has always been true about your relationship with abundance. The moment you speak this phrase with full conviction, you cross an invisible threshold in consciousness. You're no longer the person who hopes for wealth or works toward prosperity. You become wealth itself. This identity-level transformation changes everything because the universe can only reflect back to you who you are, not what you want or what you do. Let me now reveal the transformative wisdom Florence Scovel Shinn discovered about imagination and how it serves as the hidden bridge between your current financial reality and the prosperity that awaits you. If you've experienced the power of speaking with absolute conviction and watching reality conform to your words, type creative authority in the comments below. There's a profound reason why Florence Scovel Shinn's teachings continue to transform lives nearly a century after she first shared them. While most spiritual philosophies come and go with changing cultural tides, her message remains as relevant and powerful today as it was when she first revealed it. Why? Because she wasn't teaching temporary techniques or cultural beliefs. She was unveiling the timeless architecture of reality itself. The creative power that lives within every human being, regardless of era, background, or circumstance. This universality is what makes her wisdom so revolutionary. She discovered that the creative principle operating through you isn't different from the creative principle that birthed galaxies and orchestrates the cosmos. It's the same force, the same intelligence, the same power, simply expressing through your unique consciousness. This revelation strips away all sense of limitation. If the power within you is the same power that sustains worlds, what could possibly be beyond your capacity to manifest? Florence Scovel. Shinn's journey to this profound awakening wasn't without challenges. She experienced personal setbacks and financial reversals that could have easily led her to bitter resignation. Instead, these very difficulties became the catalyst for her greatest breakthrough, the discovery that imagination is not escapism, but the primary creative force of existence itself. What most dismiss as mere fantasy, she recognized as the womb of all reality. This central truth is deceptively simple. Imagination creates reality. Not sometimes, not partially, always and completely. Your imagination is not a secondary function of consciousness. It is the primal force through which all experience comes into being. Before anything can exist in your outer world, it must first exist as a completed vision in your inner world. This applies to everything from the chair you're sitting on, to the device you're watching this on, to the financial circumstances you're currently experiencing. Think about it. Everything human-made in your environment right now began as someone's imagination. That building outside your window? Someone imagined it before the first brick was laid. The economic system you participate in? It exists because enough people imagined and agreed upon its reality. Even your current financial situation began as a series of imagination-born beliefs about your relationship with money. The revolutionary insight here is that imagination isn't just for artists or dreamers. It's the fundamental instrument of reality creation that everyone is using every moment, usually unconsciously. When you worry about bills, you're using your imagination. When you anticipate financial struggle, you're using your imagination. The universe doesn't distinguish between what you imagine in fear and what you imagine in faith. It simply delivers the corresponding reality. What makes Florence Scovel Shinn's approach so transformative is her practical application of this principle. She didn't merely theorize about imagination's creative power. She developed a precise methodology for deliberately harnessing it to reshape physical circumstances, particularly in the realm of prosperity and abundance. Let me now reveal the surprising connection between your current identity and the wealth you experience, and why a single shift in self-concept can completely transform your financial reality overnight. If you've ever created something significant in your life that began first as a clear image in your mind, type "imagination first" in the comments below. The revolutionary approach Florence Scovel Shinn taught her students goes directly against our natural conditioning. While most spiritual traditions speak of future rewards and delayed manifestation, she discovered something far more immediate and powerful. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. She instructed, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you've become worthy, but now, in this very moment. This profound wisdom cuts through centuries of misconception about how reality actually forms around us. This immediate assumption isn't pretending or fantasizing. It's recognizing that there is no gap between consciousness and manifestation except the one you create through doubt and delay. When you assume the feeling of already being wealthy, when you occupy the emotional and psychological state of abundance right now, you activate a quantum field of possibilities that begins rearranging your physical circumstances in ways that will often seem miraculous to the logical mind. The journey of transformation happens first within, then without. Most people attempt to reverse this natural order, struggling to change external conditions while maintaining the same internal state. This approach inevitably leads to frustration because it defies universal law. The breakthrough comes when you realize that the feeling must precede the manifestation, not follow it. This is the hidden secret that separates those who struggle financially from those who seem blessed with effortless abundance. Consider for a moment what it would feel like to already have complete financial freedom. How would you breathe? How would your shoulders rest? What thoughts would naturally arise? How would you make decisions? When you authentically assume these feelings now, you're not engaging in wishful thinking. You're actually stepping into the causal dimension where all physical reality originates. This brings us to one of the most liberating revelations of Florence Scovel Shinn's teaching. The creative power responds only to what you accept as true about yourself, not whether you feel worthy or ready. This distinction is crucial because most people unconsciously block their prosperity through a belief that they must first become worthy of abundance. Through struggle, sacrifice, or spiritual development, the law of consciousness operates with perfect precision, completely independent of your sense of deservingness. It doesn't evaluate your worthiness or judge your readiness. It simply delivers experiences that match your accepted self-concept. This is why some of the most ethically questionable people can be wealthy, while some of the most virtuous struggle financially. The universe is responding not to moral virtue, but to certainty of identity. When you speak the wealth-activating phrase with absolute conviction, you're bypassing all questions of worthiness and moving directly to acceptance. You're not asking permission from the universe to be prosperous. You're declaring it as an irrevocable fact of your being. This decisive inner movement creates an energetic alignment that the physical world must eventually mirror. Let me now reveal the profound difference between those who create temporary wealth versus those who establish permanent abundance, and why this single distinction changes everything about your financial destiny. If you've experienced moments where you felt so certain about something that it felt already real before it physically manifested, type inner knowing in the comments below. One of the most profound revelations in Florence Scovel Shinn's teaching is that most people are creating their financial reality completely unconsciously, and usually in direct opposition to what they claim to want. Every time you worry about an upcoming bill, every moment spent feeling the pinch of scarcity, every anxious calculation about whether you'll have enough, these are not neutral observations of reality. They are powerful creative acts that the universe interprets as prayer. Yes, prayer. Not in the traditional religious sense, but in the deeper spiritual sense of focused attention infused with emotion. When you lie awake at night worrying about money, you're not merely observing your circumstances, you're actively generating more of those exact circumstances through what could be called prayer in reverse. You're demonstrating perfect faith, but it's faith in lack, faith in struggle, faith in not enough. And the universal law, which operates with mathematical precision, delivers experiences that match your dominant emotional state. This revelation can be initially unsettling because it places complete responsibility in your hands. There's no external force limiting your prosperity, only your own unconscious devotion to scarcity thinking. The financial challenges you've experienced weren't punishments or bad luck, but the natural outpicturing of your inner landscape. This truth is both confronting and liberating, as it means the power to transform your circumstances has always been within you. The pathway out of this unconscious creation is not through strain, effort, or endless repetition of affirmations. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered something far more elegant and immediate: the power of assumption. Unlike visualization, which keeps the desired reality at a distance by positioning it as something to be achieved in the future, assumption collapses that distance entirely. You simply step into the identity of someone who is already prosperous, already abundant, already free from financial concern. This single shift in assumption is what the wealth-activating phrase facilitates. When you speak it once with absolute conviction, you're not asking or hoping or working toward wealth. You're claiming it as your current identity. You're saying, "This is who I am now," not "this is who I will become." This decisive inner movement creates an energetic blueprint that your physical reality must eventually conform to, not through magic, but through the precise operation of universal law. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity. You don't need elaborate rituals, complex visualization techniques, or years of affirmations. You need only the courage to assume, right now, despite all contrary evidence, that you are already what you desire to be. This assumption, when held with unwavering conviction, becomes a command to the creative forces of the universe. The key is not repetition, but the depth of your acceptance. When you truly grasp this principle, manifesting prosperity becomes as natural as breathing. It's no longer something you strive for, but simply an expression of who you've decided to be. This revolutionary insight transforms your entire relationship with wealth creation, making it an inside-out process rather than the outside-in approach most people struggle with. Let me now reveal how Florence Scovel Shinn's own life journey demonstrated these principles in action, and the extraordinary results her students achieved by applying this singular approach to prosperity consciousness. If you've experienced moments where your worries and anxieties seem to manifest as if by some unseen force, type "Conscious Creator Now" in the comments below. What makes Florence Scovel Shinn's teaching so compelling isn't just their theoretical elegance. It's the fact that she lived these principles with remarkable consistency. Born into an era when women faced severe limitations, she dared to imagine a life beyond the conventional boundaries of her time. While most women of her generation were confined to predictable domestic roles, she envisioned herself as an independent teacher, author, and spiritual guide whose wisdom would transform countless lives. The fascinating revelation of her journey is that her external circumstances consistently conformed to her inner state, not the other way around. Even when faced with personal setbacks and societal resistance, she maintained an unshakable inner conviction about her purpose and prosperity. She didn't wait for the world to validate her vision before believing it. She believed it first, and the validation inevitably followed. This living demonstration of her teachings provides compelling evidence of their truth. She wasn't merely theorizing about abstract spiritual laws. She was documenting principles she had personally verified through direct experience. The transformation in her own life served as a laboratory where she refined her understanding of these universal principles before sharing them with her students. What's most liberating about her journey is the realization that she wasn't operating with special powers or unique spiritual gifts. The creative force she accessed is the same force that flows through you at this very moment. The imagination she used to reshape her reality is identical to the imagination you're using right now, whether consciously or unconsciously. The universal laws she aligned herself with govern your experience with the same mathematical precision. The only meaningful difference is consciousness, the deliberate awareness with which you wield these creative forces. Most people use their imagination chaotically, their identity, statements carelessly, their creative power unconsciously. They manifest by accident rather than by intention. The transformation begins the moment you shift from unconscious creation to conscious direction of these forces. This realization places extraordinary power in your hands. You are not a helpless observer of your financial circumstances, but their primary author. The current state of your prosperity isn't random chance or cosmic punishment. It's the precise reflection of your inner relationship with abundance. And that relationship can be transformed in an instant through a decisive shift in consciousness. The wealth-activating phrase works because it facilitates exactly this shift, from unconscious limitation to conscious abundance. It's not creating something that wasn't already possible. It's activating what has always been available to you. The prosperity you seek isn't something you need to chase or earn. It's something you need to assume and embody from a place of unshakable certainty. This journey of transformation isn't about becoming something you're not. It's about awakening to what you've always been. Let me now share the profound distinction between hoping for wealth and knowing it's already yours, and why this single shift in perspective changes everything. If you've witnessed someone transform their circumstances through sheer force of imagination and inner conviction, type "witness transformation" in the comments below. One of the most liberating truths Florence Scovel Shinn discovered is that you are never bound by your past financial story. No matter how persistent your money struggles have been, no matter how deeply ingrained your patterns of lack might feel, they hold no power over your future except the power you continue to give them through your present consciousness. This insight shatters the chains of determinism that keep so many trapped in cycles of financial limitation. The profound revelation here is that the past exists only as a memory trace in your consciousness. It has no objective reality outside of your continued belief in it. The moment, the precise instant, you decisively shift your inner state regarding prosperity, the outer world must begin reorganizing itself to reflect this new inner reality. This isn't wishful thinking or positive psychology. It's the operation of universal law with mathematical certainty. Think about water changing states from liquid to vapor. Once the temperature reaches The precise threshold, the transformation is inevitable, not because the water is trying or working hard, but because the fundamental conditions have changed. So it is with your prosperity consciousness. When you cross the threshold from poverty thinking to wealth consciousness, your financial reality must transform accordingly. It's not a question of if, but when. This brings us to perhaps the most empowering and challenging aspect of Florence Scovel Shinn's teaching, the call to radical responsibility. Most people experience themselves as victims of economic circumstances, at the mercy of markets, employers, governments, or global conditions. But this perception is the very prison that keeps prosperity at bay. The breakthrough occurs when you recognize that you are not the victim of your circumstances, but their source. Every financial condition you currently experience, every bill, every debt, every limitation, every abundance, is the direct manifestation of your consciousness. Nothing appears in your experience randomly or accidentally. The universe doesn't punish or reward. It only responds with perfect precision to your dominant beliefs, expectations, and identity. When you fully embrace this truth, everything changes. Taking complete responsibility for your financial reality is initially uncomfortable because it eliminates all excuses and external blame. There's nowhere to hide, no one else to fault. But within this radical responsibility lies extraordinary freedom. If you created your current circumstances through consciousness, you can create new circumstances through the same mechanism. Nothing is fixed or permanent unless you decree it to be so. This level of creative authority places the power exactly where it belongs, in your hands. You're no longer waiting for external conditions to change or hoping for some financial windfall to rescue you. You become the active creator of your prosperity, consciously directing the infinite intelligence that shapes all reality. This is true sovereignty. The recognition that your imagination is the causal power behind every aspect of your experience. The moment you embrace this responsibility, prosperity ceases to be something you pursue and becomes something you express as your natural state. The wealth-activating phrase works precisely because it facilitates this profound shift in responsibility, from passive recipient to active creator, from effect to cause, from victim to sovereign. Let me now reveal the revolutionary distinction between the true source of wealth and the illusions that keep most people financially limited, and why this understanding changes everything about how prosperity flows into your life. If you've experienced the liberation that comes from taking complete responsibility for creating your reality, type "conscious creator" in the comments below. One of the most revolutionary discoveries Florence Scovel Shinn shared with her students completely inverts our conventional understanding of wealth. Most people have been conditioned to believe that wealth comes from outside themselves, from economic conditions, from market opportunities, from inheritance, connections, or simply good fortune. This fundamental misunderstanding is the very reason prosperity remains elusive for so many, despite their best efforts. The profound truth is that the authentic source of wealth is not your job, your investments, your business, or even your actions. The true source is your state of consciousness, the inner relationship you maintain with abundance itself. Everything you currently see in your financial life, every dollar in your account, every bill in your mailbox, every opportunity that arrives or fails to arrive, is a perfect reflection of your inner state made visible. The outer is always a mirror of the inner, with no exceptions. This revelation transforms your entire approach to creating prosperity. Instead of manipulating external conditions, chasing better jobs, higher returns, or more clients, the focus shifts to cultivating the consciousness of wealth itself. When your inner state embodies abundance, the outer circumstances must reorganize themselves to match this inner reality. This isn't mystical thinking. It's the precise operation of universal law. Think of consciousness as the projector and your physical reality as the screen. The images appearing on the screen aren't random or arbitrary. They're the exact projection of whatever film is running through the projector. When you change the film, your consciousness, You automatically change what appears on the screen, your circumstances. This direct causal relationship explains why some people seem blessed with good luck, while others face persistent struggle despite similar external conditions. Florence Scovel Shinn's most radical teaching goes even further. Your consciousness is not merely one of many realities. It is the only reality. Everything else, all physical circumstances, all material conditions, are simply the outpicturing of consciousness made visible. This understanding turns conventional wisdom completely upside down. The material world isn't primary with consciousness as a byproduct. Consciousness is primary, with the material world as its expression. This principle operates with mathematical precision. What you are conscious of being, you must become in your physical experience. If you are conscious of being financially limited, the world must reflect that back to you as material limitation. If you are conscious of being abundantly wealthy, the world must reflect that back as material prosperity. The law is absolute and knows no exceptions. The wealth-activating phrase works precisely because it facilitates an immediate shift in your consciousness of being. When spoken with absolute conviction, it's not describing a desired future state. It's declaring your current identity. And since your consciousness of being must externalize itself as experience, this declaration begins rearranging your entire financial reality the moment it's fully accepted. This understanding reveals why so many conventional approaches to wealth creation ultimately fail. They focus on changing effects, circumstances, while leaving the cause, consciousness, untouched. It's like trying to change your reflection in a mirror by manipulating the mirror itself rather than changing what's being reflected. Let me now reveal why certain people can lose fortunes and rapidly rebuild them, while others remain trapped in scarcity despite countless opportunities, and how this insight transforms your relationship with money forever. If you've noticed how your internal state seems to directly influence the opportunities and circumstances that appear in your life, type "inner creates outer" in the comments below. One of the most fascinating phenomena Florence Scovel Shinn observed in her decades of working with students was the mysterious pattern of wealth that seemed to follow certain individuals regardless of external circumstances. She noticed that some people could lose entire fortunes through business reversals, market crashes, or even poor decisions, only to rebuild their wealth within a remarkably short time. Meanwhile, others remained perpetually struggling, despite receiving windfalls, inheritances, or lucrative opportunities. This pattern revealed a profound truth. External wealth is always temporary unless it matches your internal state. People who repeatedly build fortunes after losses aren't experiencing random luck. They maintain an unshakable inner identification with abundance, regardless of temporary circumstances. Their inner state never wavers, even when their external conditions collapse. Meanwhile, those who remain in financial struggle despite opportunities are maintaining an inner state of scarcity that inevitably sabotages whatever wealth comes their way. Think about lottery winners who return to financial struggle within years or even months of receiving millions. Their consciousness wasn't prepared to embody wealth, so they unconsciously created circumstances to return them to their familiar state of limitation. The money wasn't the problem. It was the inner relationship with abundance that remained unchanged. The outer always aligns with the inner, without exception. This revelation explains why conventional financial strategies so often fail to create lasting prosperity. No investment strategy, business opportunity, or income source can override your fundamental relationship with abundance. Unless that inner relationship transforms, any external wealth will be temporary at best and often painful in its departure. When you speak the wealth-activating phrase with absolute conviction, you're not merely wishing for money or asking for prosperity. You're stepping into a completely different state of being where wealth is natural, normal, and effortless. From this state, money flows to you not because you chase it, but because you radiate the frequency that naturally attracts it. This distinction changes everything. Consider the difference between these two approaches. In the conventional model, You pursue wealth as something outside yourself that must be captured through effort, strategy, and persistence. In Florence Scovel Shinn's model, you embody wealth as your natural state, and prosperity is drawn to you through resonance and alignment. The first approach creates struggle and often disappointment. The second creates ease and inevitable manifestation. This is why the phrase works so profoundly when spoken from a place of certainty. You're not trying to get something you lack. You're acknowledging what you already are. You're stepping into the consciousness of someone who naturally attracts abundance without effort or strain. From this state of being, opportunities arrive that others don't see. Resources appear that weren't previously available, and synchronicities unfold that seem miraculous to the conventional mind. The inner state of natural wealth feels completely different from the desperate pursuit of money. There's a calm certainty, a quiet confidence, a peaceful knowing that prosperity is your birthright rather than something you must fight to acquire. When you radiate this state of being, the world responds accordingly. Let me now reveal the revolutionary understanding of identity that Florence Scovel Shinn discovered, how the words that follow, "I am," become the most powerful creative forces in your entire experience. If you've noticed that certain people seem to naturally attract wealth, while others struggle regardless of opportunities, type "natural abundance" in the comments below. One of the most profound revelations Florence Scovel Shinn shared with her students completely reverses our conventional understanding of wealth attraction. Most people operate from the assumption that wealth comes to them because they pursue it, through hard work, strategic planning, or relentless hustle. Yet this approach keeps prosperity at arm's length, creating a perpetual chase that never quite reaches fulfillment. The revolutionary truth is that wealth doesn't come because you chase it. It comes because you radiate it. Think of wealth as a mirror. It doesn't respond to your desires or your actions nearly as much as it responds to your identity, to who you are being in each moment. The mirror simply reflects back to you the energy frequency you're emitting into the world. If you're radiating scarcity consciousness, even your most determined efforts will yield limited results. But when you radiate abundance consciousness, prosperity flows to you through channels you couldn't have planned or predicted. The only way to authentically radiate wealth is to assume it as your core identity, not as a future possibility, but as your present reality. This is precisely what the wealth-activating phrase facilitates. When spoken with absolute conviction, it transforms your energetic signature from someone seeking wealth to someone embodying wealth. This quantum shift in identity changes everything. This understanding completely transforms your journey to prosperity. Instead of asking, "What must I do to become wealthy?" you begin asking, "Who must I be to naturally attract abundance?" The first question perpetuates struggle. The second initiates transformation. Actions that flow from a state of embodied abundance carry an entirely different energy than actions driven by perceived lack. The universe responds accordingly. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered a profound sequence in manifestation that most wealth seekers miss entirely. The inner change always precedes the outer manifestation. When you genuinely accept wealth as your identity, not as a goal, but as who you are, everything in your external reality begins to reorganize itself around this new self-concept. Your bank account changes, the way people treat you shifts, the opportunities you attract multiply. But none of these external shifts initiate the process. They all respond to the internal transformation that has already occurred. This revelation explains why affirmations and visualizations so often fail to produce lasting results. When practiced as techniques separate from identity, they remain superficial, like applying paint to a crumbling foundation. True transformation occurs only when your core identity shifts. The wealth-activating phrase works precisely because it targets this fundamental level of being rather than merely attempting to change your thoughts or behaviors. The journey of authentic prosperity begins with a brave decision to claim an identity that may seem at odds with your current circumstances. This requires transcending the evidence of your senses and anchoring yourself in a deeper truth. that you are, in essence, abundance itself. When you make this courageous choice, the gap between your inner knowing and outer reality becomes temporary rather than permanent. Your circumstances must eventually conform to your embodied identity. Now, I want to go even deeper into the revolutionary phrase itself, the precise declaration that, when spoken once with absolute conviction, has the power to transform your financial reality forever. If you've noticed how your confidence and certainty about something seem to magnetically attract it into your life, type identity magnetism in the comments below. One of the most profound revelations Florence Scovel Shinn shared with her students completely reverses our conventional understanding of wealth attraction. Most people operate from the assumption that wealth comes to them because they pursue it, through hard work, strategic planning, or relentless hustle. Yet this approach keeps prosperity at arm's length, creating a perpetual chase that never quite reaches fulfillment. The revolutionary truth is that wealth doesn't come because you chase it. It comes because you radiate it. Think of wealth as a mirror. It doesn't respond to your desires or your actions nearly as much as it responds to your identity, to who you are being in each moment. The mirror simply reflects back to you the energy frequency you're emitting into the world. If you're radiating scarcity consciousness, even your most determined efforts will yield limited results. But when you radiate abundance, consciousness, prosperity flows to you through channels you couldn't have planned or predicted. The only way to authentically radiate wealth is to assume it as your core identity, not as a future possibility, but as your present reality. This is precisely what the wealth-activating phrase facilitates. When spoken with absolute conviction, it transforms your energetic signature from someone seeking wealth to someone embodying wealth. This quantum shift in identity changes everything. This understanding completely transforms your journey to prosperity. Instead of asking, "What must I do to become wealthy?" you begin asking, "Who must I be to naturally attract abundance?" The first question perpetuates struggle. The second initiates transformation. Actions that flow from a state of embodied abundance carry an entirely different energy than actions driven by perceived lack. The universe responds accordingly. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered a profound sequence in manifestation that most wealth seekers miss entirely. The inner change always precedes the outer manifestation. When you genuinely accept wealth as your identity, not as a goal, but as who you are, everything in your external reality begins to reorganize itself around this new self-concept. Your bank account changes. The way people treat you shifts. The opportunities you attract multiply. But none of these external shifts initiate the process. They all respond to the internal transformation that has already occurred. This revelation explains why affirmations and visualizations so often fail to produce lasting results. When practiced as techniques separate from identity, they remain superficial, like applying paint to a crumbling foundation. True transformation occurs only when your core identity shifts. The wealth-activating phrase works precisely because it targets this fundamental level of being rather than merely attempting to change your thoughts or behaviors. The journey of authentic prosperity begins with a brave decision to claim an identity that may seem at odds with your current circumstances. This requires transcending the evidence of your senses and anchoring yourself in a deeper truth that you are, in essence, abundance itself. When you make this courageous choice, the gap between your inner knowing and outer reality becomes temporary rather than permanent. Your circumstances must eventually conform to your embodied identity. Now, I want to go even deeper into the revolutionary phrase itself, the precise declaration that when spoken once with absolute conviction, has the power to transform your financial reality forever. If you've noticed how your confidence and certainty about something seem to magnetically attract it into your life, type identity magnetism in the comments below. The moment has arrived to reveal the powerful phrase that Florence Scovel Shinn discovered, the declaration that, when spoken once with absolute conviction, has the power to transform your financial reality from the inside out. This isn't just another affirmation or visualization technique. It's a decisive identity statement that aligns you with the very frequency of abundance itself. The phrase is this: I am wealth, I am abundance, I am rich beyond measure. Take a moment to feel the resonance of these words. Notice that this isn't phrased as a future possibility or a distant goal. It's not, I will be wealthy, or I am becoming abundant. It's a direct declaration of your current identity, who you are right now, regardless of external circumstances. This immediate claiming of your prosperity consciousness is what gives the phrase its extraordinary power. When you speak these words, do so slowly and deliberately. Feel each syllable as it leaves your lips. Sense the vibration in your body as you declare this truth. But, and this is crucial, do not speak it as a wish, a hope, or a desperate plea to the universe. Speak it as a calm recognition of what has always been true about you beneath the temporary appearances of limitation. This is where most seekers of prosperity make a critical error. They repeat affirmations hundreds or thousands of times, hoping that through sheer repetition they'll eventually convince themselves of something they fundamentally doubt. But Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that this approach actually reinforces the underlying belief in lack. The very act of endless repetition betrays your disbelief. Instead, speak this wealth-activating phrase once with complete conviction, with the same certainty you'd say your own name. Then, rather than repeating it from a place of doubt, simply rest in the truth of what you've declared. Allow a profound silence to follow your declaration. A silence filled not with questioning, but with quiet knowing. This single declaration, when spoken from a place of absolute certainty, creates a decisive break between your old identity and your new state of being. It's like closing one door and opening another. The moment the phrase leaves your lips with full faith behind it, something irreversible happens in your consciousness. A seed is planted that must, by universal law, grow into its physical equivalent. The key here is not volume or repetition, but depth of conviction. Speaking it once with complete acceptance is infinitely more powerful than repeating it thousands of times with underlying doubt. When you truly know something, you don't need to keep convincing yourself of its truth. You simply live from that knowing. Let me now reveal the extraordinary power hidden in the words, I am, and why what follows these two simple words determines the entire landscape of your life experience. If you feel a resonance with this phrase as I speak it, if something within you recognizes its truth beyond your current circumstances, type, I recognize my truth, in the comments below. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered something extraordinary about the two simple words that begin the wealth-activating phrase. I am is not just a grammatical construction. It's the most powerful creative force in the universe working through you. Throughout spiritual traditions across history, these words have been recognized as the name of the divine creative principle itself. When you declare I am, you're invoking the infinite intelligence that shapes worlds. Whatever follows these two potent words becomes an irrevocable command to your subconscious mind and to the universe itself. I am broke must create experiences of lack. I am unlucky with money must manifest as financial misfortune. I am wealth must express as prosperity. This isn't metaphorical or philosophical. It's the precise mechanism by which your reality forms around you. The power of I am is absolute and operates with mathematical precision. This revelation explains why the wealth-activating phrase begins with these specific words. When you declare, I am wealth, you're not making a casual statement. You're issuing a divine decree through the creative power within you. This decree must, by spiritual law, manifest in your tangible experience. There is no option for failure when this declaration is spoken once with complete faith, because you've activated the very same power that sustains galaxies. The extraordinary truth is that the universe cannot distinguish between you and your I am statements. To consciousness, they are one and the same. This is why, whatever follows, I am in your declarations inevitably becomes your lived experience. You are literally speaking your reality into existence with each I am statement you make, whether consciously or unconsciously. After you speak the wealth-activating phrase with absolute conviction, something remarkable begins to happen in the fabric of your reality. It's as though the universe itself begins to rearrange its components to align with your new declaration. This isn't magical thinking. It's the natural consequence of shifting your fundamental identity at the causal level of creation. The world around you has no choice but to reflect this internal transformation. Circumstances that once seemed fixed begin to shift. People who can facilitate your prosperity suddenly appear in your life. Doors that were previously invisible now stand open before you. Opportunities that were hidden in plain sight become obvious. None of these external changes initiated the process. They're all responding to the decisive shift in your consciousness that occurred when you spoke the phrase. This reorganization of your reality isn't random or coincidental. It's the precise outpicturing of your new identity. The external world must, by immutable law, conform to who you know yourself to be. This is why a single declaration, when spoken from absolute knowing, changes everything. You've altered the causal level of reality, and all effects must rearrange themselves accordingly. Let me now reveal the sacred silence that follows this declaration, the profound stillness where the real transformation unfolds before it becomes visible to your physical senses. If you've ever witnessed reality seemingly reorganize itself around a decision you made with absolute certainty, type reality shift in the comments below. After you've spoken this powerful phrase with conviction, you enter into perhaps the most sacred part of the entire manifestation process, the silence that follows. This isn't an empty silence or a waiting silence, but rather a rich, pregnant silence filled with creative potential. Most people miss the transformative power of this quiet moment because they've been conditioned to believe that manifestation requires constant effort, endless repetition, or perpetual visualization. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered something far more profound, that the real magic happens not in the endless speaking, but in the quiet acceptance that follows your declaration. This silence is where your consciousness settles into its new state of being. It's where the inner knowing takes root and begins to grow into tangible expression. The power isn't in how many times you repeat the phrase, but in how completely you rest in the truth of what you've spoken. Think of this as a sacred ritual of imagination. Not imagination as fantasy, but imagination as the creative faculty through which all reality forms. In this silence, you're not asking, hoping, or pleading with the universe to give you wealth. You're simply resting in the absolute certainty that what you've declared is already done in the realm of causes, and its physical manifestation is now inevitable. This stillness becomes a space of profound surrender, not surrender to external forces, but surrender to the truth of who you already are. You release the desperate need to make it happen through force of will. You let go of the anxious timeline of when it must appear. You simply know that it is done, and this knowing carries an unmistakable peace that transcends your current circumstances. The journey from inner declaration to outer manifestation is much like a farmer planting a seed. After carefully placing the seed in fertile soil, the wise farmer doesn't dig it up every few hours to check if it's growing. Such impatience would only disrupt the natural process of germination. Instead, the farmer trusts the soil, trusts the seed, and trusts the invisible processes of nature to do their perfect work beneath the surface. So it is with the wealth-activating phrase. Once spoken with complete conviction, the seed is planted in the fertile soil of consciousness. Your job now isn't to keep digging it up through doubt or impatience. It isn't to water it with anxiety or force it to grow through endless effort. Your job is simply to trust the process, to maintain the quiet certainty that what you've planted must, by universal law, grow into its full expression. This trust is perhaps the greatest demonstration of your faith in the creative process. When you truly trust, you don't need constant reassurance or visible evidence. You don't need to repeatedly speak the phrase or obsessively monitor for signs of manifestation. You simply rest in a profound inner knowing that transcends the temporary appearances of the physical world. Let me now reveal what happens in the invisible realm during this period of sacred silence. How the seed of your declaration begins to germinate in ways that are imperceptible to your physical senses, but profoundly real in the causal dimension of creation. If you've experienced moments of profound inner peace after making a decision with complete certainty, type sacred silence in the comments below. One of the most profound revelations Florence Shinn discovered in her spiritual journey turns conventional manifestation teaching completely upside down. When you speak the wealth-activating phrase, you're not actually creating something new or trying to attract something that doesn't exist. What you're really doing is remembering, reconnecting with the version of yourself who has always been wealthy at the soul level. This perspective shift changes everything. Think about it this way. Beneath all temporary appearances of limitation lies your true nature, abundant, prosperous, and complete. Financial struggle isn't your authentic state. It's a forgetting of who you truly are. The phrase works because it triggers a profound remembering, a recognition of your inherent wealth consciousness that has always existed beneath the illusions of lack. This understanding eliminates the desperate energy that often sabotages manifestation efforts. When you believe you're creating something entirely new or trying to attract something you've never had, there's an underlying anxiety, a fear that it might not work. But when you recognize that you're simply aligning with what's already true about your deeper nature, the entire process transforms. There's a profound peace that comes from remembering rather than pursuing. Florence Shinn observed this pattern in thousands of students. Those who approached prosperity as something to chase or achieve often remained in struggle, despite their best efforts. But those who approached it as a remembering, a return to their natural state of abundance, experienced breakthroughs that seemed miraculous by conventional standards. Once they remembered their true prosperity, consciousness, the world had no choice but to conform to this inner awakening. This remembering isn't metaphorical or symbolic. It's a literal realignment with your authentic blueprint. Think of it as tuning a radio to a station that's always been broadcasting but wasn't coming through clearly. The prosperity frequency has always been available to you, but various interferences, limiting beliefs, family conditioning, cultural programming created static that prevented clear reception. The cow phrase works by instantly clearing that static and tuning you to your natural abundance frequency. In the days following your decisive declaration, something remarkable begins to happen. Watch for the small signs first. They're easy to miss if you're expecting dramatic, overnight transformation. Perhaps an unexpected refund arrives in the mail. Maybe someone offers you an opportunity you weren't seeking. Or you might find money in a forgotten pocket. These seemingly small synchronicities are actually profound indicators, the first fruits of the seed you planted, tangible proof that the universal law is already working in response to your declaration. These initial manifestations aren't the full harvest, but rather the first sprouts breaking through the soil. They serve as confirmation that the process is unfolding perfectly. Many people miss these early signs because they're looking for complete transformation all at once. But just as nature doesn't produce a fully formed oak tree, overnight, your prosperity manifestation typically unfolds in progressive stages, each building upon the last. Let me now reveal what happens when people doubt during this crucial germination phase, and how to maintain your prosperity consciousness even when external evidence hasn't yet caught up with your internal shift. If you've experienced these first signs of manifestation after making a powerful internal shift, type "first fruits" in the comments below. You've stayed with me through a profound journey of understanding the creative power that lives within you. What I've shared today isn't just theory or wishful thinking. It's a timeless principle that Florence Shinn discovered through working with thousands of students who transformed their financial reality with a single decisive shift in consciousness. If you felt something awakening within you as we've explored these truths, a recognition that perhaps you've been approaching wealth from the wrong direction, all sigh. Along, trust that feeling. It's your deeper self recognizing a truth that your logical mind might still be processing. Remember, the phrase, "I am wealth, I am abundance, I am rich beyond measure," isn't magical in itself. The power lies in the consciousness shift it creates when spoken once with absolute conviction. Speak it now, in this moment, from a place of quiet knowing rather than desperate hope. Then watch for those first signs in the coming days. The unexpected opportunities, the fortuitous connections, the synchronicities that seem too perfect to be coincidence. These aren't random events, but the first visible expressions of your new identity taking form in your physical reality. If you found value in these teachings and want to continue this journey of consciousness transformation with me, hit subscribe below. Each week, I share powerful principles that can help you awaken to your true nature as a conscious creator in all areas of life. If this message resonated with your soul today, type Divine Abundance in the comments. I'd love to know who's walking this path of conscious creation alongside me. And if you enjoyed our time together, a simple like lets me know these teachings are finding the right people at the right time. There's a video right here that reveals how to apply these same principles to transform your relationships just as powerfully as your finances. Click and continue with me there as we explore how the same law that governs wealth also governs love. Until next time, remember, you are not becoming wealthy. You are remembering that you have always been abundance itself.